Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand.
I can't explain the way these crown loads they come to me. Morning meditation, Psalm 91 and 23. Watering my money tree, manifest abundantly. On a mission, running free, everything they wanna be. In summary, there's been a shift within the earth sphere. So now people hear my messages and words clear. Still shining, the illest with the brilliant timing. The gold mine who had to go find a silver lining. Ain't nothing new underneath the sun. I be going through it too, you ain't the only one. Don't take none of this life personal, cause we all got some lessons that we working through. Ain't nothing new underneath the sun. I be going through it too, you ain't the only one. Don't take none of this life personal, it's just the lessons that we working through. So why you tripping, huh? Why you mad, son? Got some good days and some bad ones. Might win some, might lose some. That's just the way it goes, life 101. Why you tripping, huh? Why you mad, son? Had some good days and some bad ones. That's just the way it goes, life 101. Yeah, life gon' be life until your day is done. Never will you see a thief return a treasure stolen. No need to lock away your heart if it was never open. Truth heals the spirit and it's better spoken. Most never heal, they remain forever broken. I protect over my cells like a prison guard. True and living star, pay the price to get these wisdom bars. Listen hard, I was cut out of a different cloth. Turn your light up on these hoes and never switch it off. The queen's a winner, moving like a seasoned ninja. I'm even tempered, never beefing like a vegan dinner. I found peace within my inner, that's a sweet surrender. Don't relive your lessons twice like repeat offenders. They'd rather see me decompose like leaves in the winter. Want me to undermine my shine and decrease my shimmer. While they competing in subliminal battles, I'm only fighting hidden parts of my invisible shadow. Cause I learned that people never want the bitter truth, just the sweetness. But you need both the light and dark to reach completeness. Goddamn, people throw rocks and hide their hands. Vindicate the wolves and they silence in the lambs. Fight to keep your soul purer than a sacred virgin. Even if you die and rebirth into your latest version, your fate is determined by how you shake the weight of burdens. You gotta save yourself, become your own favorite person. Ain't nothing new underneath the sun. I be going through it too, you ain't the only one. Don't take none of this life personal, cause we all got some lessons that we working through. Ain't nothing new underneath the sun. I be going through it too, you ain't the only one. Don't take none of this life personal, it's just the lessons that we working through. So why you tripping, huh? Why you mad, son? Had some good days and some bad ones. You might win some, might lose some. That's just the way it goes, life 101. Why you tripping, huh? Why you mad, son? Had some good days and some bad ones. That's just the way it goes, life 101. Yeah, life gon' be life until your day is done.
One life, 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 a life, one life, one life, one life, one life,
All right, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio Placement. I'm the your host, Knowledge 109. We got another special edition of Self and Self podcast. I'm all excited. I'm saying, let me tell you something. The people from Nigeria was calling me, hey, hello, Knowledge. How are you doing, my friend? When is the show going to be back on again? We don't want to see you. We want to hear from the stage. She made so much sense last week. I was like, all right, let me call and see what's going on. So it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce somebody to others and welcome back to her home. A place of wellness, a place of wholeness, and a place of truth. The one, the only, Miss Chanel Johnson is back in the building. Welcome, ma'am. How you doing?
Thank you. Welcome back to the show. I'm Chanel, famous support provider, peer support specialist, and I'm dedicated to helping people in the Black community move from survival mode to intentional, purpose-driven living. And today we are going to talk about redefining strength for Black men and women. And we want to take a walk through a transformative conversation about moving from survival to intention. And today we're going to go deeper into what it really means to be strong for Black men and Black women. And today we're asking the whole question: what happens when being strong starts to feel like a cage?
Oh,
When it means you're not allowed to rest, cry, ask for help, or even admit that you're struggling. And today's episode is going to be designed like a 1 hour coaching session for our community. And we're going to talk about the specific ways strength show up and how it weighs on Black men and women. And we'll explore how to help you redefine strength in a way that includes healing, honesty, and support, not just survival. And we're going to spend time in reflection, and I'll give you some questions to sit with, to journal about, or bring into your therapy session, or coaching conversations, or talks with people that you actually trust. So whether you're driving, working out, cooking, or just sitting with your thoughts, settle in. This hour's for us.
I think that sound more elegant than the bombs, okay? You know what I'm saying? But there's a bomb in there once you start dropping the bomb. So, what was it
You,
about this particular topic that it was like, all right, episode 2, bam.
we need a release. It's hard for us to get help when we're not allowed to identify with anything that we feel. So we need to take a look at why we are that way, how we got that way, and how we can start to dismantle that identity of us being strong. Because when someone looks at you with always being strong, they feel like they can always put more on you. And the interaction between Black men and Black women right now is in a really bad place. And we can't have better interactions and conversations with each other until we understand fully that we're both victims of the same circumstance, and that we have to understand ourselves first before we can even start to come together. But we got to start somewhere. So let it be today.
Well, I'm excited. Get my pen and my pad so I can take me some notes over there. You know, take me some notes. So how you want to set this off? Okay, we got an hour of power.
Well, before we redefine strength, we actually have to honor where that comes from. And our
Mm.
people survived the Middle Passage. We survived slavery, Jim Crow, lynching, redlining, mass incarceration, and continuous systemic racism, which we still experience today. And we didn't just survive, we still created from that. And we built the churches, we built the mosques, historically Black colleges and universities, civil rights movements, jazz, blues, hip hop, literature, science, and art that's actually shaped the entire world. We are the originator of so many things, including, nature. And the kind of resilience that's not accidental. It's actually cultural, and it's spiritual, and it's communal. And strength in the Black community has always looked like more than just the individual grinding it out by itself. It's looked like the village. And that village for us was the extended family. It was neighbors, church members, stepping in when parents are working 3 jobs, helping you grieve a loss, or when you were just tired. They were there. It takes a village. And it wasn't just a saying for us, it's a survival strategy, and it's a love language. And creative expression and joy as resistance, from spirituals that we sung in the fields to the Harlem Renaissance to Motown to trap music, stepping, TikTok. We've always turned our pain into beauty. And we celebrated laughing, creating art, and reclaiming joy, even in the middle of hardship. It's a form of strength that actually says that you will not steal my humanity. And this is a strength many of us were actually born into. And the idea that we find a way, that we make a way out of no way, that no matter what, we endure. And there is power in that. But here's the question that we're sitting with today is, What happens when endurance becomes the only option? When finding a way means ignoring your own pain, and when strength actually becomes a mask you can never take off.
Now, how does that look different from each member of the family? Is it a universal thing amongst the black family, like the black woman, black man, black child, or does it present differently from each person? And then is there something that ties that all together?
It's going to look different for black men than it would for black women. It's going to look different from each individual family, and it's going to look different in community. So it is a personalized situation, but the effect of it is actually across the masses. So, it's going to look like the mom and the dad. Even in a two-parent home, they still have to go to work, and then the oldest child is responsible for the rest of the children. And then we have that pecking order that goes down. Or the single mom or single dad that has the children, and now the oldest child has to step into a caretaking position, which is now not allowing them to actually be in the role of being a child and having those adolescent and teen year experiences. So it ebbs and flows. It's going to look like the parent that might be drug addicted, and now you got an aunt or a grandparent raising children way past their generational gap. And now, but again, we're going to look at them and they're so strong. Oh, that's a strong grandma. She got 6 of her grandkids that she raising. She don't want to do it, but she does it out of obligation, and she does it out of love, but it's not something that she wants to do. And we have to have that conversation that just because I do it don't mean I want to. And just because I do it doesn't even mean that I should, because sometimes it can turn into enabling, and sometimes it can be great, but a generation gap of a 70-year-old grandma today and an 8-year-old child today, that's a huge gap when it comes to upbringing, ideologies, and parenting. That child is not going to understand what that grandmother's talking about from her lived experience being raised as a child and raising children, to that 8-year-old today who is not from the era of children should be seen and not heard. Children should be seen and heard, and if they're not, somebody's going to knock at your door.
So, what's a grand connector? We talked about those things. So what's what's a shared experience that can unite all of the family?
Is that we're all in this together, and we have to get back. We in the past, it was not perfect by any means. Am I saying that community was perfect in the past? But we did have stronger representations of family, and there was a point in time in our lives where the neighbor would look out for you and look out for your children. That's no longer here. There was a sense when family would come together and help as a whole. We've lost that. We see it in foreign communities where the family will get together, they'll even live together, and everybody will pay into the bills, and they'll save up the money, and then one person will get to buy a house or a business, and then when that gets up and running, they'll come back and get the other one. We're at the point now where we're just like, all right, we'll go figure that out. Now you can't live with me. You can't stay here. We don't, it's going to be too much. Like, that sense of community has to start with self, identifying who we are as our true authentic selves. And then we can come back and have community talk, because community is communication and unity. So without the conversation, without the acknowledgement, without the acceptance of who we are and how we got here, we're going to continue to be in a turmoil that we're in while the world keeps going and we're still stuck in mud.
Yeah. That's a lot right there. Yeah. So you working with families in present. I was just thinking about my own mother. My mother had 7 children by the time she was 34. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know age when you're a child. You're just like, oh, that's my mother. Oh, that's my grandmother. That's my grandfather, right? You start walking in these ages now, like you done past 34, not you, never past 21, but 34 with 7 children, trying to make sense of life and sense of self. And, you got your own goals, aims, and objectives, and you have 7 children you were responsible for, 7 unique, distinct, and, you charge to guide them on the path and all of that. Like, so she had to rely on her siblings also, so she comes from 14 other siblings, but by the time you get down to where it was only 7 of them. Yeah, 7 of them alive, by this time frame, and us being children and growing up, so that the strength that you're talking about is seen by the outside as a badge of honor, but there are barriers that are there. There are all kinds of things that go unresolved. There's a bunch of trauma, drama, and family secrets that never get resolved, and they present as addiction and abuse. Some ways to escape, and then the ritualization of a cycle of addiction and a codependency on abuse. So a lot of those things happen based off of, I'm gonna take this with me to my grave type of situation, and not knowing that these things are imploding you on the inside, causing you to explode on the outside, one way or another.
And here's the thing, I'm not knocking family involvement in raising children, but there's a difference between planning that with the family and creating a position where you leave the family no choice. Even though we're blood, it does not mean that I'm going to take care of your child like you would. It doesn't mean that I'm going to always be happy to see your child. It's different if I choose to come get your child than when I'm obligated to take care of your child and I have to rearrange my life, my goals, my dreams, my family to now accommodate a decision that you made. And it doesn't always come out pretty for us. Now, if the family has decided as a whole, this is what's going to happen, we're going to have children, we're going to figure this out, and we're going to work together on this. Or even if it presents itself before the child's born, that the family says we're here, we're going to show up, and we're going to make this work. That's a beautiful thing. But the expectation and entitlement of thinking that everyone's going to show up for you and you continuously make the same decision over and over again, that's a different type of scenario. And bad things happen in those scenarios. So we have to be smarter about our planning of family. We have to be smarter about how we navigate that, the position that we're in, making sure that we can afford it. It's so much more than Pampers and baby lotion. We're talking about college. We're talking about with certain positions being declassified, you won't get financial aid for that. So that might be off the table for you, because even like you said, with 7 children, who can afford to send 7 children to college today? Things that our forefathers had and made happen it's not the same for us today. We don't have granddad that can go work at the plant, fix cars on the side, run numbers, and there's mattress money to where nobody knew how they were going to make a way. But when Jerome got accepted to college, they went and got that money. We don't have that type of money today. Money's not the same. The value is different. And the value of education is different. So, again, forcing someone to show up and be strong. And again, that's where I come from when I say that when someone feels like you're strong, they feel like they can just keep giving you more. And sometimes we lose reality and empathy for the people that we're actually asking to show up like that.
Right. So if you the one that come up with the solutions, what are you going to get? Somebody coming to you with problems all the time. What are they not going to do? Ask you if you have a problem. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so you become that, and then now you in a space where you're looking at that as weakness, So when you are going through something, and you're suffering in silence. Right before we got on, I was thinking about what that meant. That's something that you train your mind for in the military. They say pain is weakness leaving the body, and then they tell you to suffer in silence. That doesn't look the same across the spectrum, right? So you don't complain, but there's a compartmentalization factor that goes through the rank structure. So they teach the non-commissioned officers that soldiers complain. You don't. Down to if it's cold outside and the natural thing is to shiver, you can't even shiver. You have to internalize it. You have to put on this stoic type of situation, and then you have to come to your junior enlisted with this facade. So you're pretending, and then if they want to move up in the rank structure, they have to start to pretend, right? So everybody's operating off of this optical illusion, and nobody's being human. So where do you be human now? At home. You understand what I'm
Maybe.
saying? But you're at home. Yeah, maybe, right? You're at home though, and with all of those emotions that you can't exude, all of those things that you wish you could have said to the person that's above you. Now you're taking it out on your family, physically, emotionally. You see what I'm saying? Abusive and overbearing in that way. And you visit your family in the military. You're not with them. They might travel with you from duty station to duty station, but depending on the op tempo of the unit, you'll see them periodically throughout the month.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's an extended period called a combat situation where that might have been a year, right? That might be a year. So a train up for that kind of environment means some sort of tactical training ramp up situation periodically to prepare for that year long situation, and then extended times away, then extended times at work, and then all of these aspects in regards to what it is to get a check on the first and the 15th. You understand what I'm saying? So the normalcy now is they become your family in turn becomes used to you not being there, and you're missing those years of their life. And you're like, well, I paid all the bills. That ain't it. That's not it. So you have a family who've never been afforded the opportunity to be a family in this unique environment. It looks the same in our community if it's a two-parent household. You see what I'm saying? And then shoulder in the low here, shoulder in the low there, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So tradition has to, kind of be impacted based off of that. And if both parents are outside of the home because of the needs and demands of whatever the lifestyle that they're striving to keep up, they got no relationship with their children. So they have to figure these things out themselves. We came from the latchkey kid situation. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that became something that might be normalized. We don't know the psychological detriment that this kind of thing had on us. We didn't even think about it. So we might have been happy in our own mind that we could do whatever we want. But now with our children, we might be extra guarded and extremely overprotected because we know what we was doing. So now we're distrustful of them with anything that we're saying. So all of these have a resonance in regards to how they look and how they feel, And if the family suffers in silence, what you think mama going through? She's suffering in silence. What you think pop's going through? He's suffering in silence. What you think the child going through? They're suffering in silence. And everybody's striving to be that same thing that I described in the military environment as performative, whether out of fear or out of trauma bond. You know what I'm saying? It might sound like it's love, like, well, I talk to mommy a certain way like this, and then I do this with daddy and blah, blah, blah. So this child is doing double duty, trying to be whoever everybody else is expecting them to be for them, and they don't get to deal with them, any of those things with them. So, yeah.
And that
Interesting
family will be known as that's a strong family.
right.
That family's full of strength, full of strong people.
Right.
And they're all broken, they're hurt, they're misguided, they don't know what to do, and they're just figuring it out day to day. And today I want to start introducing reflection. I want for us to start to show up for ourselves. So before we go further, I do want to invite the first reflection moment, because I want us to actually sit still and be in the moment for ourselves. We don't get an opportunity to do that. We are taught that we have to work harder than anybody else. We should not expect anything. Don't expect anything for what you're supposed to do. You don't get paid for what you're supposed to do. You don't get acknowledged for what you're supposed to do. We get diminished by any effort that we put in, and it's minimized or erased. So we have to learn to start to value ourselves, our contributions, our attributes, our characteristics, and in a healthy manner, because the way that we look at ourselves and each other is extremely unhealthy. And I got a few questions to reflect on. One is, when you think about your family history, your parents, grandparents, great grandparents, what examples of strength come to mind? Who were they? How did they show up in your life? How does strength define who they were to themselves and to others? And who are the people, men or women, who modeled resilience for you growing up? And a deeper question is, what did they have to sacrifice in order to be that strong? What didn't they get to experience? What did it cost them?
Right.
What opportunities, health, so many things that they had to go through to be strong for everyone else, and what was their reward? And now I want to speak directly to Black men and women, because the way strength gets defined for Black men and the way it's defined for Black women, although they're connected, it does carry different pressures and different costs. And to my brothers, the Black men listening right now, you've been cast in very specific roles: the protector, the provider, the pillar of strength, who isn't supposed to bend, and you better not break. The strong Black man or the tough Black man, the OG. The stereotype says you shouldn't cry. Don't cry. That's not that's feminine. You can't do that. That's for girls. Boys don't cry, girls cry. And you can't show fear. You can't ask for help.
Right.
And you should handle everything on your own, no matter what's happening inside you, no matter what's going on around you, in you, no matter what, handle on your own. These expectations didn't come from out of nowhere. Some of them were survival strategies, ways that our fathers and grandfathers learned to navigate a world that was hostile and violent towards Black men. But they also came from culture that equates masculinity with emotional control and equates vulnerability with weakness. And here's what research actually shows. Black men face some of the highest levels of stress, trauma, and discrimination and mental health challenges in the country. But Black men are amongst the least likely to seek support, whether that's therapy, coaching, support groups, even just opening up to a trusted person. And that's because of stigma and because of fear of judgment, because mental health care has historically not been safe or accessible for us. When it wasn't safe. So because asking for help can feel like admitting failure, and because you've been told your whole life that real men don't break down. But the truth is, strength without vulnerability is a mask. And that mask is costing us our mental health, our relationships, and sometimes our lives.
Most of the time.
And
Most
to our
of the time. Yeah.
to our sisters, the Black women, you are described as the strong Black women. And now strong Black woman has turned into masculine, alpha female. But she's carried the role of being the backbone of the family, the church, the community. And you're expected to be nurturing, but not needy. Don't need anything. You got to nurture, but don't look for nothing back. tireless but never tired. Do everything but don't be tired. You can't get tired of doing everything for everybody. And forgiving but never holding grudges. Like, you got to forgive everything, but don't worry about what I do to you. You got to just you got to get over that, because you got to go back to being tirelessly nurturing everybody. So there's no room for you to be forgiven. You're not allowed to make mistakes because you got to show up. And then you're available to everyone, your kids, your partner, your parents, your coworkers, your church. But somehow you're supposed to never need anything for yourself. You're supposed to do that selflessly. The strong Black woman identity has real deep roots, and it comes from survival. Our great grandmothers who had no choice but to work in the fields and then come home and raise children. Our grandmothers who held families together during Jim Crow. Our mothers who worked 2 jobs and still showed up for every recital, every church service, every family crisis. They were present at some point. And I'm not saying that every mom went to every recital. Mom probably had to work an odd shift that didn't allow her to do that. But where she could, she showed up. And yes, there is power in that legacy. But studies and personal testimonies from Black women across the country show that this identity also comes with a cost: emotional suppression, chronic stress, burnout, and a deep, deep exhaustion that you're not allowed to name because you're supposed to be strong. You don't want to be weak. You can't be weak. So when Black women do struggle with depression, anxiety, trauma, or just plain tiredness, they don't seek help because they feel like they're supposed to hold it together for everyone, because rest feels like failure, because vulnerability feels like letting people down. But the truth is, you're not superwoman. You're a human being, and your strength does not have to mean carrying everything alone. And for Black men and women, these roles can turn strength into a performance, and one that keeps you isolated, exhausted, and disconnected from your own needs.
And then y'all at war with each other because you at war with yourself.
And then it branches out to families. It branches out to your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, to your children. Right. Because you're frustrated because you have all this responsibility. If a mother goes to work for 8 hours, an hour before that starts, she had to drop the kids off. An hour before that, maybe 2 or more, depending on if she has transportation, she had to get those kids ready. Now she goes and she punches in for 8 hours. Now she has to go pick up those kids, come home, do homework, get them a bath, cook them dinner, and then it's time for her to go to bed. She really doesn't have time to be present for that child. That child is being raised by everyone else and spending the least amount of time with the actual parent. And it happens in 2-parent households as well if both parents are working. If parents are not rotating shifts so that the children are always taken care of by a parent, somebody else is raising your children. But you're strong. And because you're strong, your children are strong. So your children are going to be okay until they're not. You're going to be okay until you're not. Until you have high blood pressure. Until you have diabetes. Now you're on dialysis and you're going through chemotherapy. Until, she ends up with some type of disorder or condition. And then now, guess what? The children got to be strong and step up and take care of the parents. But because of what they already know, that cycle is not going to end. Because that's what's being taught. Because that's just what we do. We got to be strong.
Right.
And
a cycle of abuse and addiction.
Yes. Another reflection I would like to bring would be for Black men. When you hear the phrase strong Black man, what are you expected to do or be in your family, your relationship, or your community? What does that look like for you? What is the expectation? Is it realistic? Is it achievable? Is it something that you constantly feel like you're failing at because you don't have the unity of the community to even hear you? You don't have the proper communication because we don't know how to talk to each other. So how do you show up as a man in a community where you're supposed to be the backbone and the leader, and then you get no reciprocity from that process? But with those expectations, how do you show up with that? How does that look for you as a Black man? And where do these expectations come from? Does it come from your father, your spiritual belief, the streets, the media? Who told you that? Where'd you get that from? Did you experience it? Or did somebody actually tell you this is what you're supposed to do? And the hard one
Facebook.
is, how are those expectations helping you? And how are they hurting you? Realistically.
I got them expectations from Facebook and social media. Okay.
And how is that helping your progress in life? Because here's the thing.
We got this show, right? We got the show like this. So a lot of those things, they don't come internally, right? And then they do come, they come from sources that are not credible. I'll say as a black man, so we can have a little bit of interaction, right? The unrealistic expectations that are placed on black men are perpetually promoted by black men. But there are black males who are traumatized at a young age and socialized at a young age to trauma bond in that kind of way. And they've never ever received any guidance or an example of what a black man looks like. So the black man didn't even really get to decide. He just popularized something that was sent as supposed to be instructions in regards to this expectation, right? So if you were rightly guided, then you can rightly guide somebody. But the likelihood of that, 9 times out of 10, it didn't happen. 1 time out of 10, it happened. Versus 9 times out of 10, where it used to happen, 1 time out of 10, it happens now. So now, even that 1 out of 10 rightly guided might be skewed. So you're harboring this thing, right, with this Y chromosome, and the Y chromosome doesn't change much. There's not much variance in that Y. So you could go back to your great grandfather, and if your great grandfather was an abusive drunk, 1,000 times now in this generation, you're going to be the abusive drunk, whether you knew that great grandfather or not. If he was a runner, if he ran away from quote unquote responsibilities, or he had 4 families, that propensity for you is 1,000 times more likely because that Y doesn't change much. So in order for something to happen, it has to be a cosmicalistic shift. I don't know how to say it right now, but it has to be something tremendous in the way that's a shockwave that sit back up through the generations and stand as a barrier and a vanguard for the future generation. So for my instance, to make it very personal to me, when I was young, discipline meant getting your behind tore out the frame. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever shoe, instrument, apparatus, extension cord, belt, whatever the case may be that my mother wielded, I got it to correct deficiency. Not only that, she got on the phone with my uncles, and my uncles came over and they got some. You understand what I'm saying? So it was a community behind whooping in that way. They realized, though, later on, that it didn't matter. It didn't matter. All it did was have me go inflict some punishment on somebody outside of the house for their transgressions against somebody. So now they like, oh, so earlier on in fatherhood, I modeled that behavior. Then I'm like, how I tell these children I love them and I'm harming them physically? How does that work? What sort of example am I sending? If they don't know my bloodline, this is all they know of my bloodline. This must have happened regularly. And this thing becomes celebrated, right? So I went to my children. We all sitting at the table, and I apologized, and I begged their forgiveness. I was like, this is how I came up, but this is what wasn't the sum total of my experience. So we're going to find ways to figure out how to deal with infractions that don't involve me being physical with you. Now, there are going to be consequences for your actions, but I'm not going to be putting my hands on you and telling you I love you. And if somebody put their hands on you, I take their life.
Right.
Craziness, right? Craziness. So they call that gentle parenting. Let me tell you something. 150 push-ups ain't gentle. You understand what I'm saying? 150 push-ups ain't gentle. You know, the 300 jumping jacks ain't gentle. The wall sit and all that other stuff. That like you're doing things to help them physically for them to have an understanding of I don't want to be here doing this. I would much rather make better decisions in life because decisions in life for Black people might cost you your life. We have to be mindful of those things, but also decisions in your life might bring you the greatest rewards in your life. You have to be mindful of those things as well. So, my own aspect of undoing that why and causing that shift changes generations now. My children are not approaching the situation looking to physically harm their children and justifying it and saying, I turned out all right, and all this other foolishness we tell ourselves. You know, they now assign a different situation of what it means to be a young man, a brother, what it will be for them to be a Black man, what it would mean for them to be a husband. They have different assigning properties based off of this atonement. They didn't think that adults apologize to their children. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and seeking atonement, seeking their forgiveness. How do we work this out? You should have seen my older children's face. Like, dang, word? like, yo, they're looking like, oh, snap. So, yeah, we can have an infallibility complex, but what is that going to cost you? It's going to cost you your children. It's going to cost you that connection for the rest of their life. So now they could come to me and say what's on their heart, what's on their mind, and all of those things, and they do that because that door's open. It's not closed. It's not. Children should not be seen and not heard, and all of this other stuff that we keep on stay in the child's place. Where's the child's place? You understand what I'm saying? Like all of these things that we perpetuate plantation parenting, like the things that we had to do on plantation and we had to do throughout Jim Crow and all of these other seasons to keep our children in line and so we could keep them alive because the consequences were severe, but they're still growing up in the same environments. It's no different. So what kind of mind do they have in that way? And what are we breeding in them epigenetically? And what messages are we saying are okay for our future generations? So me working with at-risk youth, like working with young people, you have to establish trust with strangers. And what I learned is that these young people, the people who failed them in their life was adults. The children was good.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was a Black man, the difference between me and the Black man that might be at their house, they might be abusing them. So I can't fail them now. I'll be another Black man who failed them. But they're looking for that because this is what they go home to. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to deal with these aspects in that regard. And then those people who are being abused are abusing people out in the world. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And then the cyberbullying and all this other stuff. Like if you was dealing with somebody that got on your nerves at school back in the day, it was just, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. You don't get no rest. They texting your phone, making memes of you on the internet and all this other stuff. And then the people joining in through the psychological groupthink type situation. So you thinking like, I'm in this by myself. And then you go home to that same traumatic environment and you're trying to tell somebody about, something that happened at school or you dealing with this bully or this, whatever this type of situation is, like, stop acting soft, blah, 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 whatever. Words will never hurt you and all these other things, right? We just got this perpetual traumatic loop that goes until something is used as a weapon or some sort of force is exerted, and now you're looking like, well, I didn't know this, or however it presents. You see what I'm saying? So that's just me personally, personally as a Black man, a lot of these things that were perpetual, they were stupid. They were dumb. And they were taught by people who appeared to be grown people that you would respect. And they're repeating things that they heard, not things that they know or things that they lived or things that they experienced or the justification thereof for their continued trauma bond. Like I'm like, you're a grown person waiting to have children to beat them. That's okay. Like these children, all of this process of gestation and all of that, and you're waiting to beat them, emotionally berate them, and then at 18, you can't wait for them to get out of your house. Sound like a plantation to me. You understand what I'm saying? It sounds like a prison. And that data release, they waiting to get out of this prison to go be the prison guard someplace else.
And I appreciate as a Black man, you doing that self-reflection and doing what was in the best interest of your children and yourself. For you to be able to show up as your authentic self and show up for you and show up for your children equally and be willing to take the consequence of your action, because they're going to tell you how they felt about that. And it takes a lot as a parent to sit and listen to your child tell you a grievance about how you parented without you getting offended and minimizing their experience of being parented by you. But it's important that we do that, because then we get grandchildren and we want to treat the grandchildren like gold and still treat our children bad and act like because we're good to the grandchildren, we weren't our best with our children.
Right.
We definitely are better grandparents than we were parents. So for a parent to say, you know what, I got this wrong, let me try to fix this, it generationally shifts everything, and it breaks those generational curses of continuous trauma being embedded in our children. Somebody has to say enough. Right. That's actually showing strength in a healthy manner, not building strength as aggression and control. And I'll say for Black women, when you hear strong Black woman, I get anxiety. What responsibilities and what pressures immediately show up for you? What comes up when you hear you're a strong Black woman? I get offended by that. I don't like it. I'm resilient. I'm not strong. And where in your life do you feel like you're not allowed to rest, to say no, or to admit you're struggling? And what do you think would happen if you stop being the strong one for a moment? Who or what are you protecting? It's not yourself. What if you weren't there? Everyone that you show up for would have to figure it out. They need to be strong for them, not expect you to be strong for everybody. And then when you need, you can't go to them because they feel like you're so much stronger than them. So they can give you everything. But because you're stronger than them, they can't take any of yours because they already got enough going on. So you got to hold theirs and yours. How do we turn that around? No. Show up for yourself. Take your naps. Get your rest. Don't watch them kids. You know, don't drive that cousin to the doctor's appointment that they knew about 3 weeks ago, but they telling you tonight, can you take them tomorrow? Start to set healthy boundaries for yourselves. Black men and Black women, we deserve to have boundaries. And if people don't respect them, they will figure it out. I promise you they will. They won't have a choice. Strength does not mean being a martyr, dying unappreciated, overworked, underpaid, and underacknowledged. That should not be the goal for us. And I want to actually talk about the paradox. You know, strength has been our survival, but it's not our trap. And balance, honoring the positive aspects of cultural resilience with honestly naming the harm. So let's actually name the paradox clearly. On one hand, the resilience, the faith, the community ties that define the strength in Black community have genuinely protected our mental health. And studies show that spirituality, extended family networks, and cultural pride are all protective factors against depression, anxiety, and trauma for Black Americans. But on the other hand, stigma around mental health, the idea that we don't talk about that seeking help is for weak people or white people, that therapy is something to be ashamed of. It's created a silence in our community. And for Black women, the strong Black woman identity can be a source of pride, but it also can lead to ignoring your own emotional and physical needs, feeling guilty when you rest or even prioritize yourself, staying in one-sided relationships where you give far more than you receive, or being at risk, higher risk for chronic stress, injuries, illnesses, hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. And for Black men, traditional masculine norms combined with racial stereotypes create a double bind, because you're told to be strong, but you're also seen as threatening. And you're expected to provide and protect, but systemic barriers make that incredibly hard. And when you do struggle with job loss, relationship issues, depression, anger, you're isolated because vulnerability feels dangerous. And studies show that these pressures contribute to higher rates of untreated depression and anxiety amongst Black men, lower rates of therapy and mental health service use, higher risk of substance use as a coping mechanism, and tragically suicide, which has been rising amongst young Black men and boys in recent years. So here's where we land: a healthier, fuller, more human definition of strength. And it has to include more than endurance and self-sacrifice. A new definition for us would include telling the truth about how you feel to yourself first, like being honest. I'm not good. It's okay to not be okay. And then the people that you trust. And if you don't have those people, find them. If you're in a situation where you have nobody that you can trust, you need to change all that. You gotta move different. You gotta get in better circles, because why are you staying around a group of people that you do not trust? You are constantly placing yourself in danger. What value are they bringing to you? What benefit are you getting from that relationship? What does reciprocity look like in that? Because if you don't trust them, they probably don't trust you either. So that's just a recipe for disaster. And asking for help without shame, whether that's therapy, coaching, a support group, or a conversation with a friend who gets it. And then we got to set boundaries, even with people that we love. Actually, first and foremost, with people that we love. And because protecting your peace is not selfish. It's not selfish at all. It's okay to say, you know what, you're giving me too much and I can't deal with this right now. I'm going to have to come back to you, or just not at all. I don't want to deal with this. You can't give this to me. It's too much. No, I'm not going to do that. You don't have to give a reason why. I said no. That's it. You asked me a question, I answered it. I don't owe you an explanation. Just because you want to tell me why you need me, I don't have to tell you why you're going to have to figure something else out. And then resting, because your body and your mind need recovery, not just hustle. You're going to burn out. And then we got to create spaces where Black men and Black women can feel vulnerable with each other, not just strong for each other. And I will say that Black men need those spaces. Women will create those spaces for each other. Black men need to be vulnerable with Black men, because there's a lot of things that we can't help you with as women. But you got to have safe spaces for Black men to be real and honest with each other. But there has to be men of integrity in that circle. It has to be men with ethics, morals, and values that benefit the community, not just an echo chamber of hurt men that don't know how to deal with what they're feeling. So they just want to attack. And in the spaces with women, we got to be accountable for what we do on our part in this as well. Like, we each need to sit with our own group and heal as men and women, so that when we come together, we're not coming together with vitriol. We're not biting each other. We're not poisoning each other. We're not trying to have a tit for tat with each other. Well, you did what I did. And a lot of that also comes from, sometimes we got to take a break at the relationships. And I don't care if it's personal, If it's friendships or intimacy, take a break and get to know you. Don't bring that to the next person. And with all of this, creating those spaces, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. This is survival and thriving, not just surviving. We need to thrive. We need to start implementing wisdom. And then, reflections for everyone, men and women. Where in your life are you pretending to be okay when you're not? What's happening right now? Who called you today? What happened at work? What happened with the kids? You're overwhelmed. Your girl, she's nagging you when you come home. Your job, you might be losing your job and she don't know it. You forgot to pay the car note because you paid half on the lights so it wouldn't get turned off. But you don't know how to tell her that because you're strong. And you want her to think that you got it all together. She doesn't know that's how you feel because you never said it. You never went to her in those honest spaces. But she also doesn't create the space for that. She tells you that you're supposed to be a man. You're supposed to figure it out. So in that instance, who wins? The whole family loses because we can't talk to each other about real things and how we feel. And excuse me, what do you think it would cost you to tell the truth about how you're feeling? And what might it give you? Do you think your partner's going to leave? Being honest. Well, not always, but sometimes teach the person that you're with as well how to converse, how to have proper dialogue. And at the end of the day, here's the thing. They're going to find out anyway. So just go on and have a conversation. Had a conversation before, because when something presents itself, when something presents itself, it allows that person to be able to handle it ahead of time. But when people find out information after, it looks like deceit. It looks like dishonesty. And it looks like lack of trust. So if you're with someone, I want to be careful how I say this, that you don't have that with, have a conversation to goal to have that, or you might want to reevaluate your situation. But also don't let the agreeance of trying to go towards it make it a continuous excuse for behaviors that are unhealthy, because the best apology is change behavior. And who is one person you could be more honest with this week, even if that's yourself? Can you keep it real with yourself? Because it's just you and you. So can you actually step up and say, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not okay. I'm not good. I don't know how I'm gonna keep this together. And when you have a partner, you might get some feedback that might be helpful. Your partner might be willing to step up. Maybe, some way, somehow communication makes things happen. There has to be a solution. Something has to happen about the problem. But if you don't talk about the problem, it's just going to compound.
There go the bomb right there. Hold on. Let me get the bomb together. Let's load it up. Hopefully you got a partner. A wife, a husband, or significant other you could keep it real with. You understand what I'm saying? Otherwise.
But just remember, keeping it real doesn't mean taking abuse. It doesn't mean taking dishonesty. There's a difference between having grace for someone's growth and then just accepting whatever they do because they have a reason for it, or because they have some type of trauma, or there's always a reason for the behavior, but never space for the change. Be very mindful of getting in those types of situations where you're boxed in by their experiences when everything that they're interacting with you with is actually unhealthy. And it feels uncomfortable for you because it's probably not truly who you are as a person. And that goes for Black men and Black women.
Yeah. I wrote a whole book dedicated to finding value in and reigniting the value position of Black family, called the power of Black family. So I dealt with it from traumatic to triumphant until we deal with the traumatic experiences. Like you were speaking about earlier, sitting with your family and being open, being open without apology. You know what I'm saying? So you when you are looking to establish trust, trust can't be in a place where there's secrets that are harmful, secrets that are detrimental, secrets that you're gonna find out later on after somebody then passed away. Now it changes how you how you see them and all of that. The neighbor who checked on you might have been your daddy. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so if you don't know the truth and they don't have the truth, then they can't deal with the truth. If you tell them the truth, they can deal with that truth, and you could work on uh, reconciliation. But if you harboring these secrets, they hurting you. They hurting you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They hurting you, and you're carrying them around. And if you think people don't see you when you're hurting, they only see you when you're up. And you trying to put on this happy face and this good show. You know, After a while, the person gonna get tired of asking you like, "What's up? What's going on? What's up? What's going on?" Just talk to me. You can tell me, blah 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 blah. And then on that end, if you're doing that, when they actually prepared to tell you, are you prepared to be in a position to listen? You see what I'm saying? Or are you caught in your own type of situation? But we dealing with from the traumatic to the triumphant, because traumatic is a state of being. You can come out of it, but it takes work. You see what I'm saying? And triumphant is where you're supposed to be. That's
Mhm.
an optimal state of health, an optimal state of being in that regard. So looking at it from the traumatic state and what caused that traumatic state, what happened, to be all ears and to be open, in those places. Right? I knew a young girl where she used to cut her wrist and then she used to pull her hair, to get that release that she was looking for. And she was like mild mannered, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff. Like she went along, but nobody knew what she was carrying until she went to one of, the fam's house, and over there they close. You know what I'm saying? Over there they close. So it's like, oh, what's going on? Blah blah blah. And she showed her wrist and showed her the hair. You see what I'm saying? And she was like, she's been carrying around all of this stuff, and nobody listens and nobody cares, and blah 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 blah. And this is the only way I can feel something, uh, a release, an escape. You see what I'm saying? So, and they sitting down and they're discussing it. I'm like, discussing these things as a family, working through the trauma as a family. You know, the goal. This is your goal to do X, Y, and Z. You got a family that can insulate you and help you reach this goal faster. Somebody's bringing resources. You're not going to your family and your family, oh, you know how we do. We gonna clown you first and all of that. Everybody don't. They're not built like that. They're not built for that. So that environment has to be optimal towards what the goals, the aims, and objectives. And if they don't think that they can trust you, they're not gonna come to you. So reconditioning the mind, updating the schema, and all of these things in regards to what this is, in regards to what sort of future you want to have. You know, it might be rough to have this discussion, but is your lineage worth it? Like your future generations, are they worth it? You see what I'm saying? Are we correcting these uh, traumatic situations so they can be triumphant, or we want to trivialize them and downgrade them and allow this perpetual cycle of abuse to continue?
Absolutely. I want to give you some things to think about, to explore. you may want to write some of this down, just so that it's not for me. It's for the conversation that you're going to have with yourself. And it's not something that you just listen to, just answer real quick and go away. You might really want to just sit with this for a little bit. And for men, how are your ideas about masculinity? What it means to be a man? Were shaped by your father, your community, the media, and systemic racism. And how to redefine strength. So it includes emotional literacy, emotional maturity, healthy relationships, and asking for support, not just grinding, providing, and staying silent. And how do you, as Black men, set boundaries? How do you process your anger and your pain in healthy ways? What does that look like? And how do you build a life where you feel seen, not just used? For Black women, let's work on releasing the guilt and shame around self-care and saying no. Identifying which relationships and commitments are one-sided and learning to set boundaries without feeling like you're abandoning people. Building a life where you're not always last on your own list, where your strength includes being supported, not just being the support. How do we, what will you need to make this happen? If it's something that you desire, what do you need to make that happen? Do you need education, resources, information? What is it that you need so that we can change the dynamic of what our family structures look like? Because this is something that we need to work on as individuals. We cannot have a conversation too much about community if we have not met ourselves yet. Not the idea of who we think we should be based upon what we were told by society or our family or our spiritual belief, but who we authentically are to ourselves in our own self-identification and definition. And I have more questions. For Black men, when you think of being a strong Black man, what emotions do you never feel allowed to show? Is it sadness, fear, disappointment, tenderness? And what feelings have been labeled as weak or unmanly or simp in your life that you actually identify with? But you can't say that because in a circle of your peers, that's frowned upon. But that really is who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone doesn't have to be an alpha. Alpha does not mean the best. And there's so many more segments of that are, all we know is alpha and beta, alpha and beta. Study that.
Yuck.
Learn it, because there's nothing wrong with not being an alpha. There's nothing wrong with being a beta. And how have the rules about emotions for you as a Black man helped you in your life? And how have they hurt you or your relationships? Everything that you've been told about emotions, don't be weak, don't cry, don't be soft, be aggressive, make sure you maintain control. How is it benefiting? How's it working for you? How's that showing up? How's it showing up with your interactions, your relationships with your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your children, your partners? Is it helping? Where is it helping and where is it not? And really write that down and really reflect on that and see where you can course correct and make some adjustments to get what you want. And then how have the rules about emotions helped you in your life or hurt you in your relationships? But also, what messages did you receive growing up about therapy, coaching, or asking for help? Whose voice is that in your head? Is it yours or someone else's? And if you imagine strength as including vulnerability, emotional honesty, emotional maturity, and asking for support, what would change in how you show up as a father, a partner, a friend, or a leader? What would that look like for you? Look at where you are now and just add in each of those individually and look at what that would look like for you and the people that you lead within your family. And what is one concrete step that you could take in the next week to care for your mental and emotional health? That can be booking a therapy or coaching session, opening up to a friend, or giving yourself permission to rest, or just naming one feeling out loud, just between you and you. And for women, where in your life do you feel like you have to push through no matter what? Even when you're exhausted, you're hurting, you're running on empty. Write out every space where you feel that. And then what are you afraid might happen if you stop being a strong one just for a moment? Who or what are you protecting by staying in that role? Identify them by name. Identify them by their role in your life. And which relationships in your life feel one-sided? Be honest with yourself. And where you give far more than you receive. And you know that, you see it. And how is that imbalance impacting your spirit, your body, and your peace? And if rest, softness, joy, and receiving support were also considered forms of strength in your life, what new choices would you make this month? And what is one boundary you could set this week to protect your peace, even if it feels uncomfortable and even if it makes someone else upset?
That's right. Okay. I don't think you're applying yourself, monkey. That's what.
And these
That's
are
what it said
questions.
Friday, right?
I
These are
don't think you're
questions for
applying yourself,
you.
monkey.
Yes, these are questions for you. You don't have to tell me the answers, but you know deep down inside you want to talk about this.
Right.
You just don't have anybody to talk about it with. What areas of your life are you still living by survival rules? And it doesn't match your current reality, doesn't match who you are. Do you have 3 people or spaces where you feel safe to be yourself? Who do you actually show up as you for? Who really knows who you are? The real you, the intimate you, what you go through, your pain, your joys. Who really knows who that is? Not your strong self, not the person that you present to the world because you got to be strong, but who really knows you when you're tired and you're scared? Who knows that? And how can you intentionally invest more time and energy in those connections? Those are the people that you need to gravitate to, the ones that honor and respect that portion of you, because they're really there for you. And if you had to rewrite your personal definition of strength today, what 3 words would you include? Not what you think somebody else would think, really just thinking for yourself, because you want to hear what you have to say. And take your time with these. Write them down, talk about them, bring them into your next therapy session. Have somebody work on it with you if you're at a space where you don't feel comfortable actually doing that for yourself.
People be telling your business, okay? You ain't trusted of nobody because people be telling your business, okay? Your therapy session become the gossip session, that become the social media post, that become the group text, that become the crazy stares at the family function, okay? So you can't be telling your business out here because people be telling your business, but you be telling your business. You just ain't telling your business out loud. Your behavior and your conduct is telling on you, okay? Your behavior and your conduct is telling on you. Like, hey fam, we can see you, right? You understand? It's like, all right. Denial, right? Not the river in Kemet, but denial. The crime of denial is that you lied to you first. You convince yourself what you're going through uh ain't nothing, right? That becomes the first sign of the addiction, right? In addiction counseling, one of the things that they say is you lie to yourself first, like denial, right? So you say I can stop anytime I want. You understand what I'm saying? I ain't really got no habit like that, and it becomes ritualized abuse over time. Like you continually abusing yourself, and people outside of you can see that, and you begin to lie to them because you lied to you first. So that double fold of denial becomes something internal and then external. until you reach a breaking point or a rock bottom or a definite significant emotional event that brings you to that place where you want to seek help. But then you need a support system because everybody along that path of that whirlwind of destruction that you was on, you might have wronged. And in that process of recovery, you got to go back and make amends. And in the process of seeking to try to make amends with somebody that you wronged, it might be a way for you to uh, backslide or whatever that case may be, might have you where you in that space where you return back to whatever that vice was. You see what I'm saying? So having that aspect in regards to understanding the denial and how that plays a role and what you do and how you do and all that becomes critical in that regard and being prepared for the blessings that look like consequences on on the way to recovery and coming back from to you getting back to the you that is truly you. Yeah.
Well, you just threw a pink elephant in the room because I would say that if that is what you're surrounded by, water seeks its own level. What
Mm.
about you is unhealed to the point to where you continue to be around people that do not serve your highest and greatest good and have attributes that you don't align with? Why are they in your circle? Why are they in your life?
Mm.
Why are you around and why are you keeping people in your life that will not honor your experiences by not sharing them with other people? Either you are like them or you have something else going on that keeps you within that you find some comfort in. So you might want to do some self-checking and some evaluation and some filtering and some processing to find out what needs to change about you so that you can change your environment because you have full control over that.
I said backslide instead of relapsing. You just let me be great with that. Okay. I
It's the same
appreciate
thing.
your grace.
No, it's the same thing. I mean, backslide is not the healthiest way to say it, but in essence, it kind of is the same thing.
Relapse.
And I would like to say that we've covered a lot this hour. And I'm going to say that some of us need therapy to heal old wounds.
Mm.
Some of us may need a coach to design our next chapter. Some of us need both. Some of us need a support group, a men's circle, a woman's circle, or just a friend who gets it. And but the point is, you don't have to carry it all alone. And asking for help is not weakness, it's actually strategy. And we have covered a lot within this hour. And we honored the legacy of strength that kept us alive. And we named the specific ways that strength weighs on the Black men and women in our communities. And we talked about what support looks like and in redefining strength on our own terms. And we spent time in reflection, asking the hard questions that don't have easy answers. And if this episode stirred something in you, I don't want you to ignore it. I want you to acknowledge it. Let that come to the surface and nurture that. And here's 3 actions I want you to take. 1, choose one reflection question from today and write it out. Write out a full, honest answer, not just in your head, but write it down. Let yourself feel what comes up and share this episode with one Black man or woman in your life. Send it with a simple message. Listen to this and let me know what it brings up for you. Then actually have a conversation. If you're ready to move from survival to intentional, purpose-driven living, then consider partnering with a professional. That could be a therapist, it could be a support group, it could be a life coach. And you can connect with me through email, chanel.selfmeetself@gmail.com. And this episode 2, Redefining Strength for Black Men and Women, is just about us trying to find our way back to ourselves. trying to find our way back to our identities, because it's so uncomfortable trying to be somebody that you're not. It's so uncomfortable trying to fit in because it's just not you. Let's get back to being authentic again. Let's go back to identifying. Let's make being us amazing again, as it's always been. And in our next episode, we're going to talk about practical things. We're going to talk about daily habits, spiritual practices, boundary setting tools, and emotional regulation strategies that support this new definition of strength. So we're going to build on this. And I'm going to give you everything I got. I'm going to throw everything at you. Take what applies to you, leave what doesn't on the table. But if it helps you get better, please take it and move with it. And we're going to give you things that you can do, not just things to think about.
So your final remarks, ma'am. I know you got some final remarks. I know you got some resources. I know you got some stuff. You always got something, something.
I will say, take care of yourself, take care of each other. And remember, I'm never going to stop saying you do not have to carry it all alone. For resources, there is NAMI.org. NAMI has wonderful programs for specific demographics. You know, they have one for the Black community called Sharing Hope. They have a spiritual one, depending on what your spiritual belief is. There's so many different, they do meet many different demographics. I'll say, like I did last week, if it's not for you, don't go into that group. It's not your place anyway. So don't go in there with vitriol, and don't discount what they offer to other people just because you don't agree with that particular group. Just go where you need to be. Because in the Black Sharing Hope group, only Black people are allowed in there. And it's the same for every group. So everybody is respected in their own way. And there's also, there's a lot of articles. I challenge you to go do a little bit of research. Go into seeing what's out there about strength in the Black community. Look up statistics, understand where it comes from, understand how it affects us in our everyday life. Because I'm not an expert. I'm coming to you with lived experience and what I know from talking to people, from being in people's lives and helping them just kind of figure things out. Look for therapists. Born, do you still have the list of therapists that we had from last week?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind posting those, I have checked these sources. They are still live. And it's a way to connect with someone if you are looking for therapy that looks like you, that understands you, and understands your perspective and your experience. And when you are looking for therapy or any type of professional help, understand that it is a relationship and there has to be some type of chemistry there. If you meet one, don't discount the service. Just find another one. Interview them first. Have a conversation and see if you guys kind of align so that you're getting the optimal experience from that actual service, no matter what it looks like. You always have the right to choose. There, you have power. This is patient-centered care now. It's not like it used to be where it was you do what the doctor says or else. So I encourage you to show up for you. Let's re-identify ourselves. Let's get back into us. It's okay to be selfish. That's okay. It's not a bad thing. We got to look out for us first. So I definitely challenge you to continue to walk this journey with me. And again, take what you need, and what doesn't apply, it's okay. We're not always going to agree on everything, and everything may not work for you, but there's something for everyone. And I truly appreciate you spending this time and listening and having this conversation.
Yes. And come back next week, okay? Come back next week. We'll be right here on a Friday, okay? You know what I'm saying? Start your weekend off right. Start your weekend off right. You know what I'm saying? So, yes. Miss Chanel, thank you for your time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your guidance, okay? Thank you for your peer support. You know what I'm saying? Out here. And excited for next week.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Hypno music.